Helo, siwmai, croeso I bodlediad Tader Trynder gyda fi, Daddy Hugh. A warm welcome to the Fathers of Metal podcast with myself, Daddy Hugh, brought to you today by METALIDADS, and always by METALIDADS. And a warm welcome to today's guest, Joey Vera from Armoured Saint and FATES Warning. What's happening, Joey?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, thanks, man. Just standard life of a dad, coming back from work, having 1,000 other things to do before I eat my food and chill out and have a bit of Netflix time. But I'm very good, thanks.
Good.
We've got a little baby, and I'm sleep training her. I've had 2 full night sleeps in 2 days, and for me, it's a giant step for me, but a small step for mankind, I guess.
That's the first step you need.
Absolutely, man. Again, it makes us better, doesn't it? A good night's sleep. Again, in the spirit of checking in with our bros, what have you been up to this well, it's afternoon with you. It's just past 1:30, isn't that right? What have you been getting up to today?
Yep. Just kind of getting ready for some touring I have coming up with Mercyful Fate. I will be filling in on bass with them this summer. So this morning it was a series of emails going back and forth for production purposes, because they're based in Europe basically, and I just needed to get some things sorted out with the stage manager and the front of house guy and the managers and stuff. And then as soon as we hang up from this call, I'm going to start practicing. I run the set every day. I've been doing this since November, basically. So I just trying to make it muscle memory and second nature. So I play the set every day. So as soon as we hang up, I'm going to go back to that.
Cool, man.
Yep.
You're obviously never too experienced to practice, and that's a really good message, really, for anyone listening who thinks they're too good. Everyone always needs to practice.
You got to do your homework. Like you just can't get by without doing your homework.
So, of course, Mercyful Fate, obviously led by King Diamond, who's Danish. Is it mainly Denmark and Northern Europe people are based?
They're originally from Denmark, and now there's members kind of a bit all over the place. I think one of the guitar players is from Sweden, but Hank and the drummer Bjarne are still in Denmark, I believe. And I'm not sure where King lives. He might be in the States.
Okay.
Living in the States, yeah.
Well, he's been then I wasn't going to ask this, but of course you're involved with Mercyful Fate. King obviously became a dad reasonably later in his life, reasonably recently. Is that right? So
yeah.
He's obviously busy with other things on top, isn't he?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, as you know, as anyone who has kids knows, it changes your life a little bit. So. Yeah, it's like a whole new responsibility thing, especially when they're young. My daughter just turned 16 this year. It starts to change when they get into be teenagers. So I'm learning that. I'm figuring this out as I go. So, it's amazing though. It's such an amazing thing to watch your kids grow up and change, and it makes you evaluate a lot of things in yourself that you never had to even think about. So pretty cool stuff.
Just a sort of a random question. Obviously, the past 2 years, so many activities have ceased for yourself, of course, musical activities. Have you been able to maybe put a positive spin on the past couple of years and have had more time with your family and your kids?
Yeah, that's the silver lining in all of that, was that this is the first time I've been home. This is the longest I've been home in probably, 30 years or something, maybe longer, which is crazy to think about. I never sort of realized that, I've had stretches of time when I was home, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year, but 2 years, this is crazy. it's getting longer, but I got trips coming up, so slowly getting back to performing again. But that was the silver lining, was being home, especially during summers here. And I live in California.
Okay, cool.
And I missed a lot of summers for the past 20 years. You know, just wasn't around, and if I was here, it was for a short period of time. So it was really cool to be here and spend time with my wife and my daughter, and fix a lot of things in the house that needed fixing, you know, stuff like that. So
Yeah,
it's been good.
They always tell us, "Hey, I've been asking you for months, and now you're home." So
Yeah,
I guess I best get that thing
I have
done.
no excuse anymore.
So tell me, is it just the one child you have?
Yeah.
Cool, excellent. So maybe you can give me some tips, because I have a 3-year-old, and I think it's sometimes referred to as the three-nager. So yeah, maybe you can give me some advice.
They used to say the terrible twos. At least that's what I heard growing up.
Absolutely.
The terrible twos. But I actually thought that the threes were way worse than the twos.
I gotta completely agree with you there. I thought the two was it's not as bad as people say.
Yeah.
Then the third birthday happens.
And then the threes were tough. But then after the threes, then it changed, and it got easier. I mean, the adversity really just changes face. You know, you still have adversities, you still have things you got to learn and figure out. They just kind of change face. You know, so you gotta be malleable.
That's a good word, malleable. So just quickly before I move on, what type of things is your daughter into in regards to hobbies, spare time, that type of thing?
Not a whole lot now, particularly. I mean, throughout her childhood, she did a lot of different things, which I guess is common for most kids. You know, parents, and we introduced her to a lot of things. So she had, you know, various different musical, you know, lessons, piano, violin, flute, you know, different things like that. And then she was in MMA, kind of fighting for a while. And then she was into hula dancing for a while, which she was very, very good at. And then, you know, tennis, you know, just some sports, some light sports. She's not a huge sports fan, but, and then at some point you introduce them to stuff, and then you just let them go and let them do their thing. And my style was never really to force her to do anything for me. You know, I just wanted to introduce her to something and let her run with it. So I was never really that strict about, you know, having to practice and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the message was there about, you know, if you want to get better, you got to practice.
That's pretty cool, man. I've got some similar insights from Sean Killian from Violence and Frank from Tankard about a similar topic about their kids. Where's the line between encouraging and pushing? I don't know if it's a musicians thing, but musicians seem to be quite chilled about giving the space, and I think that's generally the best thing, I suppose, because, you know, leading by example is good, but they need to find their feet, find their identity, and find what they like, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she sees me put in plenty of hours of practicing and working and rehearsing, and you know, just writing. You know, I do a lot of writing and recording here, so she sees the ethic that goes into what I do. So, you know, the message is getting through that you know, life is work. You got to work at it. And I see her putting her the same work into her schoolwork. My wife and I never push her to do her homework or any work at school or anything. And she just takes it upon herself and completely responsible, and she does everything. She's getting amazing grades. And so I'm just kind of like hands off, you know, like let the sleeping dog sleep.
Yeah, man. Know. You've obviously got the balance is obviously right. So, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it, as the saying goes. But hey, dude, thanks so much for sharing just a bit about your family. I didn't actually know you were a father. I actually couldn't find much about your family online, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, thanks for sharing that with us again with our theme in METALIDADS. But I just want to say to you as well, musically speaking, I know it's been pretty much been a couple of years now, but congratulations on your most recent albums with Armoured Saint and Fate's Warning. Are you happy? No worries, dude. Thank you so much. Especially Punching the Sky. I can't remember it's about is it about 55 minutes long? Because I used to listen to it a lot on my cycle journey to work, because when I left my house and I arrived in work, the album finished as soon as I turned up. So it was almost like the perfect length. So.
Oh, great.
But yeah, congratulations.
I guess it is about that long. Thank you. Yeah, we're, we're all really proud of that record. We love it. I think it's, some amazing songwriting that we I think accomplished. I'm really proud of that record. Production's great. Everybody that participated, the band and, Jay Rustin and the engineers and everybody did great. So we're super proud of it. And we're looking forward to getting out and playing live some of these songs. It came out during COVID, as you mentioned, and, didn't do anything for it. So we have some touring coming up later this year. We can talk about that in a sec if you want. But so we're looking forward to getting out there and playing this new material.
So talking about, getting out there and getting back into musical activity, I'm very much excited on your behalf to announce that, well, yesterday, I believe so, something quite exciting happened in the Armoured Saint camp. Could you tell us a bit more about what happened yesterday?
What the hell happened yesterday?
Sorry, it was the re-releasing of your first 3 albums.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was yesterday. Sorry if I got the date wrong, but it's obviously being a re-releasing of your earliest work, of course,
well,
the first 3 albums.
Yeah, technically they're not out yet. Technically they're out on April 15th.
Oh, my apologies. I thought
that's when they technically go on sale. But we've started having pre-sales available as of a couple of days ago or something. Actually, yeah, a couple of days ago. So so it's cool because we've been able to get the rights to license these to Metal Blade Records. Our first 3 records with Chrysalis, we're pretty much celebrating 40 years as a band this year. 2022 we're 40 years old this year. So as part of that celebration, these first 3 records are out on vinyl for the first time since the early 80s. The CD is also available, there's been various versions of the CD throughout the years, but the big selling thing is the LPs, because the vinyl hasn't been available since the 80s. So we've bumped up the packaging a little bit. There's some comments from each band member inside the packaging about our thoughts about each record. So it's really interesting, I think, for fans. Some really cool color variations of the vinyl. So yeah, pretty excited about that. And all 3 records are out April 15th. And throughout the year, we plan on just keep posting a lot of social media things about our entire career, a bunch of old photos and flyers and pictures and little stories about just, about us coming up in 1982, basically. So yeah, pretty cool.
Cool, that's really exciting, because there's actually quite a lot of bands this year, I think, and it's quite nice that the big 4-0 is coming up with musical activity starting to raise again, because Metallica in their 40th year, again Tanker, Destruction, potentially Creator, and of course W.A.S.P. I believe they're also in the same camp as you guys. And moving on to my next question, with the restarting of musical activity, you're of course going on the road with W.A.S.P. in October, I believe.
We are. We're doing a fall tour with W.A.S.P. in this fall of this year, 22, and it's in America only, unfortunately. I wish it was in Europe as well, but it's only in America. It's quite long. It's like 6 weeks long, and playing tons of shows, a lot of places we've never been to, a lot of states and cities we've never played, so that's pretty cool. And it's just us and W.A.S.P. It's 2 bands. So we get to do a full long set, and looking forward to it because, again, haven't played in a long time, and celebrating the 40 years and celebrating Punch in the Sky as well. Yes. We want to forget about our new record, and and it's a great thing for us and W.A.S.P. to be together on this. It's kind of a full circle because in 1982, 40 years ago, we played some of our very first shows with W.A.S.P. When W.A.S.P. was starting out as well. We were both playing at the Troubadour together. We played a couple of shows at the Country Club and at Perkins Palace. So we played several shows with W.A.S.P. way back in the day, 1982. So a really cool full circle doing this together again 40 years later, and super looking forward to it.
Oh, dude, that sounds really exciting. You know,
Yeah.
you were obviously there. I don't want to make too fine a point on it, but I wasn't there by about 5 years. So it's you were obviously there, and I'm very much curious. Obviously, W.A.S.P. are very well known, especially in the early day, for the theatrics on stage, the appearance, etc. Were the stages blood-caked and visually terrifying in 1982 as well? Or was that something that came a bit later?
Well, no, it was actually pretty crude back then. It was there was less sort of what do you say, production and flash and stuff. I mean, Blackie and W.A.S.P. were doing, when they first came out, like their set was just crude. You know, they had I think the most elaborate thing they had was this kind of like it looked like, I don't know, it was like a bondage you know, thing made out of wood, and they had this woman that was tied to it, and you know, Blackie would come out and spill blood on her and lick her body, you know, like you couldn't even get away with that shit now.
No.
You know, and then there was another section in the show when he'd bring out this big giant sort of like this, I don't know, look like a big hunk of wood and or a tree stump looking thing, and he'd set it on the ground, and then he'd bring out all this bloody raw meat and a huge cleaver, like an actual cleaver, like, and you know, we're talking like club, like you know, someone could have easily have gotten injured without too much ado, you know. And he would hack up pieces of meat and throw it in the audience at people, and like if you know, you got to think about, like, in 1982, like you'd never seen anything like that before, and here's this guy throwing bloody meat at you. It was crazy.
It was very fresh, because, you know,
the meat was very fresh. I saw it.
Yeah, good joke, dude. That was a really good dad joke. Of course, you know, in regards to freshness in idea, I suppose, you know, Venom were obviously doing again that crudeness, the occult, etc. Hellhammer hadn't quite turned up in gig format yet, but yeah, I can imagine that was no one was probably doing that in 1982.
Especially in Hollywood, you know, like for instance, the Troubadour, speaking particularly about that club, you know, prior to 1982, the Troubadour was a sit-down venue. You walked in, and there was tables and chairs that went all the way up to the stage. And for those people who don't know what the Troubadour is, it's just this legendary old club in Hollywood on Santa Monica Boulevard. And like everyone's played there, from like the Eagles to James Taylor to Elton John, you know, like it's just a legendary place. It's very small though. It only holds something like 350 people.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a very small venue, it's just a club. But up until 1982, the tables and the chairs were on the floor. So when metal started to come up, and the new wave British heavy metal was having an influence on Los Angeles, we, Armoured Saint and W.A.S.P. and other bands, Rat, for instance, and we started to play, and we were trying to kind of bring this sort of craziness that we saw in Kerrang! Magazine to Los Angeles. And so I think Armoured Saint is kind of one of the bands that we take credit, and some of our friends helped us with this. We were the first band to come in, and our fans came in and moved the chairs and tables off to the sides of the venue so that they could stand and headbang, which the club had never seen before. So imagine you going, this club owner is like, what the hell is this? You know, they thought it was like, they could maybe think it was like a punk rock show, for lack of a better explanation, but they'd never seen anything like it. So our friends moved all the tables and chairs out of the way, and thus began the first standing room only shows at the Troubadour. And to this day, that's pretty much 95% of all shows since then have just been standing room only. So it was a pretty cool time to be there in LA.
Thanks for sharing those stories, man. It's sort of materializing in my head just a bit more, and it's really, really exciting. Now, of course, talking about your early day, and then of course fusing that with the releasing of the early albums on vinyl. Now, of course, one strength that bonds a lot of these all the early albums together is, of course, guitarist Dave Pritchard. Now.
Yep.
February the 28th, was only a couple of weeks ago, marks 32 years, believe it or not, since his tragic passing in 1990. Now, recently we were lucky enough to interview the UK thrash metal band Evil in their show in Cardiff, in my home city. We were chatting a lot about bereavement as they lost their bass player, Mike Alexander, in 2009 while on tour in Sweden. They gave me quite a lot of insight about, I suppose, the pressures a band faces when you have the tragedy of losing a bandmate and a best friend, I suppose. You've obviously got the pressure of the touring must go on, the album writing must go on. So Dave obviously passed away in 1990. And in 1991, you guys, of course, released Symbol of Salvation. Was it a similar sort of pressure or situation with Armoured Saint, that there was always maybe not quite enough time taken to grieve, I suppose? Do you have any sort of thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was obviously something we never saw coming and could never prepare yourself for. So while it's happening, it was very difficult. I guess you could say one way we sort of looked at it in hindsight after the fact was that we felt a little fortunate that we were able to spend time with him during his departure. It wasn't a sudden accident, let's say. So he had an illness, and everybody knew what was the potential was, could happen. And so we were with him during that whole time. So, it was hard, obviously, it's hard to do that anyway. But, we felt sort of lucky that we were able to at least process it somehow with him while it was happening. And then, there's, you have all these levels, because once he finally does pass away, then you have a whole new set of things that you have to face and sort out, mentally, psychologically, emotionally. So for us, at the time, we were in this really just the band's, speaking band professional state anyway. We were in a precarious spot because we were without a label. We were floating around just writing music. We were going to rehearsal and writing every day with Dave. And we had accumulated a whole bunch of music, but we just couldn't get a major label deal, which is what we were looking for. And so this happened right during that process. So we had to put all of that on hold, obviously, and process this loss that we had just suffered. And to be honest with you, at first, for the first couple of months, I would say the band was just not even secondary, but it was like quite far down the priority list, let's say. We were all living away from home, and we didn't have kids or anything yet and families yet, but we were, we had lives. Some of us had jobs, so we were still dealing with just life in general. So the band just took a back seat for a while. And, I think that was necessary for us. Obviously, we didn't have a tour that was pending. We didn't have studio time that was pending. We didn't have this career that was really sort of pending. We really could have just thrown in the towel at that point, and that may have been something that we even considered, just like, how could we go forward without Dave? Like, it seemed impossible, So we always give credit to Brian Slagle from Metal Blade, who kind of came to us eventually and said, guys, I know it's been a few months, but at the same time, like, you have some great music that you wrote with Dave. Don't let it go to waste, and don't let all the work that he put into it go away forever. It would be a shame, you know. And once he sort of brought that to our attention and made us realize it, we felt a little more comfortable moving forward. You have guilt and stuff that you have to get rid of because you feel like, how can I do this, you know, without our friend who helped us create this stuff, you know. And but you sort of have to change your mindset and say, you know, this is what he would have wanted. Like he didn't, you know, he wasn't in the rehearsal studio with us for the past 3 years writing all this music just so that it could go to waste, you know. Like that would suck. He would be pissed at us, you know. So we just changed our outlook and made the best of it. So that's when we called Phil and Jeff and asked them to come back into the fold. And that's when we kind of regrouped and we made Symbol of Salvation. And, you know, the process doesn't end there. I mean, we had to go into the studio, and then actually recording the record was a whole nother emotional process. And then going on tour and interviews and people asking about Dave every day, and you're all constantly reminded of it. So it was a process, you know, and it was something that was, you know, it's a life lesson, and you just have to embrace it as that.
Joey, thanks so much for your insight on that. It's you know, again, it's not easy to talk about bereavement even 32 years later. Again, you was obviously he was your bandmate, best mate, you know, family members effectively, because you've been with each other as a tight unit for such a number of years as the band. But it's quite nice, the insight you sort of give me in regards to the album almost become a type of therapy, and it's almost like a I don't know if therapy is the right word, but helping you with the grieving process, I suppose.
It was very cathartic while we were making the record. You know, you have the you know, we had been a band for 10 years at that point, when making that at that moment, and we had all the stuff we'd been through with the label, and then the 3 years of writing with Dave, and then losing Dave. You know, it was we were beaten, and our backs were in a corner, and so we had to fight to get out. And so it was very cathartic making that record.
And the rest is history, my friend, isn't it? It's amazing.
You know, we're still working on it. The life lessons never end. So they just change face, kind of like, you know, kind of like our children.
Absolutely. Dude, thanks very much for your insight. It's just very special just to hear about how you dealt with it. Obviously, it was something that was, again, a longer period. It was something you were expecting, as opposed to, say, something sudden, which can have a completely different result, especially in the band Evil's case, as I mentioned earlier. But just moving on, sticking around the 80s, really. It's a story I know you might have mentioned quite a lot in interviews before, but a lot of our younger listeners might not be familiar that in the 1980s, when, again, talking of another type of bereavement, when Metallica lost their bass player in an accident in Sweden in 1986, that you, Joey Vera, were the first choice person to replace Cliff Burton before the eventual appointment of bassist Jason Newsted from the awesome band Flotsam and Jetsam. So I'm a huge Metallica fan myself, and Cliff Burton for me is one of my sort of bass gods. So just to be speaking to you today as first choice is somewhat of an honor for me. So just wondered, what do you remember from this time about when you were sort of approached? Were you familiar with the Metallica guys at that point?
Well, the truth of the story is that it wasn't as clear cut as that.
Never is.
To answer your last question first, we were friends with the guys. We had done, we became friendly with them while they were still in Los Angeles before they moved to San Francisco. And then after that, we stayed in touch. We did a few shows with them in San Francisco. This was right when Kill 'Em All was coming out, basically. So we're talking early 82, 83, stuff like that. And then we did some lengthy tours with them later. After we got signed to Chrysalis, we toured with them and W.A.S.P. Again, the W.A.S.P. connection was there. In 1984, we did a full U.S. tour with both those bands. And we became really close with them on that tour, on the W.A.S.P. tour with W.A.S.P Metallica and Armoured Saint. And that was in the U.S. And so by the time, so we were friends, let's just say that. And when the accident occurred, they first came back, and they were, from what I understand, they were auditioning a lot of different bass players up in their hometown. So they were seeing loads of people, and almost to the point of like a cattle call, where they were seeing a lot of local guys and friends and things like that, people that they knew. But they wanted to, it must have just been terrible for them, because it was just, I can't imagine going through what they did and then having to pretty much right away try to replace their friend. It was, I can't imagine how hard that must have been, And I think that they just wanted to reach out to people that they knew that was outside of their immediate circle. So I wasn't the only one, and I wasn't the first one. I was one of a few people that they reached out to. So Lars called me one day, and because we were friendly, and he basically told me the situation and what they were going through and what they were intending on doing. So the truth is that the conversation was really more like, we just want to play with some people that we're friends with, and then we'll see what happens. It's not like they weren't calling people and saying, hey, do you want to join our band? Yeah. It's not so clean cut as that.
Cool.
You got to make sure the vibe is right. Do we get along? Is this going to work? That kind of thing. So basically the invitation was merely to come up and spend time with us and see if this is going to work. So I had to consider it. I said, I'll call you tomorrow. At this time, Armoured Saint world, we were in the middle of recording our third record with Chrysalis, Raising Fear. So I'm still in my band with my mates from childhood. I've known these guys since I was 7 years old. So we're still a unit. We're still making records, and we're making Raising Fear, and we're literally in the recording studio doing this. So the timing for me to consider such a life-changing moment wasn't right. I had to come to terms with that. I had to be honest with myself. I don't want to go up there and waste their time, waste my time, if I know deep down that I'm not ready for this. This isn't right for me right now. I have business yet to finish with the band I'm in and my mates. So I had to call Lars the next day and decline the offer kindly. And I was very honored that they thought of me, and I still am. But that's the truth of that story.
Cool, man. Yeah, I hope I wasn't coming across as ignorant. There doesn't seem to be much truth about it in the internet world. So it's interesting to hear about the actual case.
The internet they gloss over things, and then it condenses the truth, and next thing you know, it's a false truth. But
what happened, and to be honest, I'm sort of glad in one respect that did happen, because your third album is probably my favorite Armoured Saint record. I think specifically, just talking about you and John, the engineering on the album is amazing. I think your bass work comes out much stronger than on the first two albums, and John's voice by the third album, it just goes up another level, and that's why I like the album. It shows off again yourself and John just so well, and you can hear again all the little intricacies of your bass fills here and there. Oops.
Thank you.
Losing my headphones.
There's some really good performances on it from the whole band, and it was a weird record to make, just because of where we were psychologically with our record label and the relationships we had with people that signed us. Some people lost their jobs and moved out of the company. So for us, it was a bit of a transitional phase. But we're proud of that record too. I mean, the performances are great. It has some great moments on it, great songs, and some of the songs are, less to be desired. But but there's some great stuff on it.
Yeah, man. I'll say I'm a huge fan of the third album.
Cool.
And obviously we've been naming dropping quite a lot of bands just in the bands you have worked for. So I must say your resume is incredibly impressive. So you as a bass player, you're obviously professional, friendly guy from what I can tell, and I'm not after a kiss, don't worry. But you obviously don't get...
There's still time.
Yeah, okay, there's always time. Big time.
Sorry.
But it's okay, dude. But you obviously don't struggle to get work. So I sort of look at you as like a metal Mandela, which is... but as then...
I don't know about that, but...
Yeah, but, you know, obviously you don't, you know, we talk about Metallica and the big four. Now, Anthrax manage what I suppose Metallica didn't. So you, of course, got Anthrax to add to your list, to your bow, I suppose, because you obviously joined them for a little bit in the mid-2000s to replace Frank Bello. So at that point, remind me, was John was in the band at that point, wasn't he?
That's correct, yeah.
So was it John that sort of vouched for yourself, or did you know a few of the other Anthrax guys just from the scene?
Well, I think that I knew the guys. I knew Scott and Charlie and Frankie, and I knew them all already. But I think I'm sure that John was a part of that. I mean, I don't think that John was. I think that the idea actually came from Scott. And John wouldn't be so bold as to suggest, how about my friend Joey, plays with Armoured Saint. He likes to tread his business. When he was in Anthrax, his business with Anthrax is very personal and he held it very close. He was never really one to sort of like, bring his friends into the fold just because,
Yeah.
But I think once Scott suggested it to him, he said, "Yeah, I mean, I think he would totally do it." And I think he said something to the effect of, "He's really easy to get along with," which I pretty much am, I think, for the most part.
Your resume says so that's good.
So I think it started with that, and so then once they knew that they needed somebody to fill in for Frank. Scott told John, "Well, if you think so, ask him." So John called me one day and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I'll do that. That sounds like fun." So
amazing. And again, the rest is history. It's it's just nice that you've I'm really, well, we call it CV in the UK, but resume, of course, is the word you use. But it's just nice to see.
Yeah. I was very fortunate. I mean, I have to say, like, it wasn't like, it just sort of worked out. Some of these things just fall into place, because at that time I was very much involved in Fates Warning. I've been in the band, I've been Fates Warning for like 25 years or something like that. I've been in the band for a long time.
So 1997 was the first album release,
96.
96, okay, cool.
Yeah. So, it just so happened, though, when Anthrax asked me to do this, it just so happened that Fates was on a break. So it worked out for me. I didn't have to like quit Fates Warning. I didn't have to like ruffle feathers with touring schedules and stuff. It just sort of like, oh yeah, it just fit right into place. So I was very fortunate that A, they asked me, and B, that the timing allowed me to do it. So, I mean, again, super honored. I mean, I have been very lucky to play with a lot of great musicians thus far. Anthrax being one of those guys, one of those bands. All the guys in the band are incredible musicians and super professional. And just every time you play with people like that, the bar just gets raised in your own playing. So I've just been really lucky. All the Fates Warning connections and the band there, and I played with some amazing drummers because of Fates Warning. So lots of various different drummers, and they all elevate me as a musician. So I've been super lucky, that I've been able to have this experience with so many different musicians.
Amazing, dude. Again, thanks for your insight on that. And it's just, just to be a fly on the wall, just in your career, you've again played with so many great musicians. I've just been on so many great bills, and it's quite nice. Was it 1984 was your debut? Obviously, you had a 3-track EP in 1983 with Armoured Saint. Now, 1984 for me, even though they say 1986 is almost a golden year for metal, 1984 has got a special place in my heart. Obviously, you're talking about that tour with Metallica and W.A.S.P, because obviously W.A.S.P released their debut in 1984, and Metallica's Ride the Lightning, of course. So it's just nice to hear a lot about the early days, and specifically that tour as well.
Yeah.
Now, again, just coming to the end now, Joey, so thanks again for your time today. Just something completely off topic now. There's been plenty of examples of metal bands playing in movies as an entire band. Now, Cannibal Corpse famously being in Ace Ventura, Malice in Vice Versa, Aerosmith in Wayne's World 2, Primus and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and even Tito and the Tarantula in From Dusk Till Dawn. Now, you are the only band, as Armoured Saint, to have ever been killed by the Cenobites, aka the demons in the Hellraiser franchise.
Yeah, so I think you're right. We
what
and,
a
that was the whole reason that we said yes to that. Because they asked us if we wanted to do it, and we said, well, sure, send us the script, I want to see what's our part, So they sent us a script, and it was very descriptive about how we're playing on stage in a club, and then Pinhead comes in and basically annihilates the place, and it was very graphically detailed in the script how each band member was killed. And so we were like, holy shit, we are so into this. Yes, we're going to do this. I want to do this. Unfortunately, when it came time to shoot, the reality of it is you're on set, and we're in like North Carolina on some soundstage somewhere, and it took forever to shoot. Like it's just the movies. It takes longer than anybody says it's going to take. It's just the movies. That's just how it is. And it took forever. It took all I don't know. It was like a 17 or 18-hour shoot day, and we never got to the kill part. They only sorted out the live performance part and the actors, interacting while we're on stage, kind of thing. And we kept waiting. Well, when are we going to get killed? When's that going to happen? And unfortunately, at the end of the day, and they wrapped and said, "All right, thanks, guys. We'll make it happen in post production, and don't worry." And we're like, "Oh man, I wanted dismemberment, and I want blood, and I want I want to be killed on stage by Pinhead." But so unfortunately, we didn't get to experience that part of it. But it was fun.
I remember, I think I checked out the Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth Wikipedia page, and there's a little sketch, a little bit of writing about Armoured Saint being in that scene, but it says supposedly they get killed off stage. Obviously, so
yeah,
they're presumed dead. Is
exactly
what it says, on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
But, just that film alone, there's actually quite a few rock and metal references, because of course Motorhead have got the song Hellraiser, which they collaborated with Ozzy on, because both artists, Ozzy Osbourne as a solo project or solo artist, and Motorhead have both separately released the song Hellraiser, of course, because of that movie. So what a killer soundtrack to that movie.
Yeah, originally they came to us and wanted a song for the end credits, and we submitted a song too. Motorhead got it though, but and interestingly enough, maybe for some fans, the song that we submitted was "The Pillar," which appears on Revelation.
Of course.
And so we kind of intentionally wrote that for the movie. Or based on being in the movie as a soundtrack song. So it has, if you read the lyrics, it has references to the pillar, and Pinhead's world, and it's dark, and so, but they passed on it. So we said, all right, we'll use it for our next record. Like 12 years later.
It's like almost an ending of Scooby-Doo, and I wouldn't have got away with it too if it wasn't for Motorhead. Damn it.
Exactly.
Thanks for the insight. I'm a huge horror movie fan, as you can tell, and I'm quite partial to probably only the first 4 Hellraiser films, and it starts going quite quickly, unfortunately.
I say the first 2. I even by 3 it was kind of getting like, but hey, we're in it. So
hey, it's a bonus. Hey, again, dude, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Just on the scale of, on the the theme of what we are, Metalidads, you know, mental health, fatherhood is a big thing we're talking about. So just keeping it simple, really. How are you doing on a scale of 1 to 10 these days? 1 being poor and 10 being amazing. How you feel today?
I'm feeling like 10 today. You caught me on a good day.
Good, man. Excellent.
Yeah, you know, I think the last 2 years have been challenging for a lot of people. And for all of us, people in the entertainment industry got really hit hard. But lots of people got hit hard, not just us. So you know, my family's safe and we're healthy, and we have had some loss close to us, but not immediately. So, you know, I try to I try to look outside and remember how lucky we are, and we're fortunate. You know, things could be so much worse, and a lot of people in other parts of the world have things far worse than we do. So we always try to count our blessings and say, you know, we're so damn lucky, and I try to keep thinking that way, and you know, keeps me on the positive, you know.
Cool, man. So one of your, I think they say in meditation terms that one of the 7 keys to happiness is gratitude. So is that one of your secrets to happiness, being grateful?
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta be grateful. You know, I don't like taking, I mean, it's a struggle sometimes. You take things for granted sometimes out of laziness or because it's convenient, you know. But I try not to take anything for granted. Nothing. So for me, that's a big one for sure.
Joey Vera from Armoured Saint, from Fates Warning, Mercyful Fate, and so many other bands over the years. Again, your resume is amazing. Thanks so much for talking to Metalidads. And as we always say, whether it's whammy bars or weaning, napalm death or nappies, it's always good to talk. So thanks for talking to us today. So stay heavy and stay healthy. And on staying healthy, again, we want to try and get bros, especially in the metal community, to talk out loud about things that you know, bother them, or insecurities or anxieties, etc.
Yeah.
And there was something I asked you to prepare for us earlier. So again, what Joey's, yeah, I can see it. So let there be talk. That's the message we're trying to spread. So Joey, again, thanks so much for your time. It's been an honor, and I really wish you all the best with all your musical activities this year, with Mercyful Fate, with Fates Warning, and of course the big tour with W.A.S.P, celebrating 40 years of Armoured Saint. So as you say in Wales, diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much, dude. Look after yourself.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, dude. Look after yourself. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.